First time.
Do you normally have like contact?
All right. So, by the end of this lesson, you'll be able to describe how sound waves are heard, describe the difference between characteristics of waves that are perceived by the human ear, describe different types of interference when waves overlap, and describe what happens when resonance occurs. All right. So, all these questions, I believe I addressed in the video. I think. Okay. What I have here is a tuning fork. Okay. So, when this vibrates, it makes a noise. I'm going to come by your ear. Don't freak out. Don't jerk. Okay. I'm coming behind you, so don't freak out.
It sounds like Star Wars, like, you know, when they pull out their lightsaber.
I've never heard that.
What do you use this to tune?
Oh, they used to tune pianos a lot back in the day. Here. Here.
I feel like when you open up your top part, it's like
Coming behind.
I feel like it's
Okay. So, you heard it vibrate. Now you're going to see it vibrate. Watch the cup. Ready?
Kyla Watt.
Ready, Kyla?
She said, wow.
Wow. Dang.
I always, those are words where like, is that high? Interference. Experience has an eye.
Ready?
Where there's an eye that
Josie, ready?
Oh, what? No, I think only one that. Wait, does experience? Why is it wrong? Experience looks weird. There's just some words that anywhere. I look at it, lots of big
Okay. So, sound waves travel at 343 meters a second. Longitudinal pressure waves. Your eardrum responds to the change in pressure, getting pushed in, high pressure, pulled out, low pressure. Okay. Good with that. So this is going to be a little tour down the ear canal, kind of like a Magic School Bus. And the music selection is amazing. Little polka. Oh. Okay, this is your eardrum. Okay, this is the thing that vibrates. If you rupture your eardrum, you're tearing that membrane. So behind those is located the smallest bones in your body. The three that make up the, I don't know what those are called, axle, drum. I'm out. Hammer, anvil. There it is. And then this is the thing that converts the vibrations into electrical signals that is sent to your brain. And you perceive like, oh, I hear something. And this is the thing that when you get dizzy, the fluid in there is like sloshing around. If you ever have vertigo, there's issues with that thing. Cool. Okay. So, talked about this in the video. High pitch, low pitch. You can feel the vibration. High frequency, high pitch, low frequency, low pitch. Okay. The range of human hearing is pretty extensive. It's from 20 hertz to 20,000 hertz. Okay. So here's a little music physics theory. So you have an octave. So that's like the do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, do, do. Has this, the two do's have the same note. They're both C, theoretically. But there's 8 notes in between there, hence the ach. Okay. If you've ever played any instrument or done any exposure at all to music, middle C is like that's your starting point. Middle C has a frequency of 256 hertz. Okay. If you go up an octave, you double the frequency. So the next C above that, you don't need to have these memorized, like the numbers. I'm just trying to make connections with people who have some kind of music exposure. Okay. So the next one above that, next C above that is 512 hertz. The C above that is 1,024 hertz. And so on and so forth. So if you look at this, there's more ranges of frequency between this C, there's less ranges of frequency between this C and this C than there is between this C and this C. And as you go up, so in between these two, there's 8 notes, 8 full steps going between here. There's still 8 full steps between here and here, but the difference in the frequency is much bigger between those steps. Okay with that? So I'm making some connections here, okay? And then Here, what changes with volume? It's the amplitude. The reason why, oop, there it is. As the amplitude increases, the distinction between the high pressure and low pressure gets greater. So on louder things, the high pressure is higher, and on low pressure is lower, which causes your eardrum to go back and forth harder. So that's why when you come back from a concert, your eardrum's ringing because you've just been thrashing it back and forth. Good with that? Okay. Yes. It's not gonna be a good shot. No, I got it. We're gonna do this. Here we go. That'll work. Okay. All right, Dan, you can help me out here. Grab the one end and join me out here on the floor. All right. You need to be able to see the floor for this demonstration to be. All right. So, what you're going to do is you're going to send a little wave pulse like this. Okay. So just up and back down. Give it a shot. Try it. There you go. Okay. Do it again. Just a little. There it goes. Okay. So, what we're both going to do that at the same time. Okay. So you keep doing what you're doing. Ready? 1, 2, 3, go. And we're going to see what happens when they overlap. 1, 2, 3, go. 1, 2, 3, go. Okay. Now we're going to go opposite. You keep doing what you're doing. I'm going to go the other way. 3, 2, 1, go. 3, 2, 1, go. Okay. Kind of hard to see. We'll look at it in slow motion here in a second. But one thing you can observe, when the waves hit each other, do they bounce off or do they pass through? Okay. I'm going this way. Jenny's going that way. Ready? 1, 2, 3, go. 1, 2, 3, go. Do they bounce off or pass through?
It looks like it passed through.
They pass through. Okay. Cool with that? Thank you very much. Good job. Get your carpet square. All right. So when waves overlap, they interfere with each other. Okay. 2 types of interference. One is constructive interference. This is when they're both going the same direction. Okay, here we go. And whoop. Oh, let's back that up just a tad bit. Ooh, that's too much. That's good. All right. No. Too much. Sure, we'll go with that. All right. So we're going to take the one that's most obvious. So this has an amplitude of +2. This also has an amplitude of +2. So what we're doing is we're adding the amplitudes. And the resultant amplitude is +4. And that'd be constructive interference. Okay? So let's say, let's take a look at another point. Let's say this is +1 here at that location. And this is, we'll say, 1.8. So you have +1, so 1.8 gives you 2.8. Good with that? And you can do that at any point in time, at any location, to find the resultant amplitude. Okay? So that's constructive interference. Destructive interference is when the amplitudes are going in the opposite directions. Okay, you can see here how they pass through each other and not bounce off. So at this moment in time, you have an amplitude of +2 from this guy and -2 from this guy. The resultant amplitude, adding those together, is 0. Okay, that would be completely destructive interference. Okay, let's look at another point in time that, let's say, here we have +2, and here we have -1.3 or something like that. Okay, adding those together, you should get a positive 0.7. Good with that? That's still destructive interference, it's just not completely. They're working against each other. Do that. Okay. So an example of this you might have seen in life is if you've ever played out on the lake on a jet ski, and you're like, you want to hit jumps because that's fun. So you're looking for motorboats to make waves, but there's none to be found. So what do? Go in a circle, create your own, and you're trying to time it just right so your wake comes together and makes a big one. Sometimes you like nail it, you know, yeah, it was awesome. But other times it's like, like, dude, I swore I made some waves. And you look back and yep, there's waves. Like, what? So sometimes you get the crest and the crest, the high point and the high point. Sometimes you get the peak and the trough, or the peak and the valley coming together and making still water at a certain moment in time. Cool with that? if you've ever been boating and you pulled somebody, whether a water skier or a tuber, and they fall off and you have to go get them, you have to circle around them. When the waves come together from the wake of the boat, the people in the front have a tendency to get splashed because the waves are so big, because the waves are coming together and interfering. If you've never been out on a lake, next time you're there, or if you ever get a chance, take the boat or whatever you're driving in a circle. Worth it. Okay. So you can get some pretty crazy patterns due to this interference. So here we have two signals going on simultaneously. We have the solid black wave, and then we have the dashed black wave, playing or like overlapping each other, and they create this light gray pattern. Okay, so here we have constructive interference, adding the amplitudes. Here we have destructive interference. Here we have constructive interference, destructive interference. You okay with that? Okay. So you get some pretty crazy stuff. All right, give those a shot. I made them square or rectangle-ish to keep things simple. Tell your neighbor. Correct answer is B. I like it. Just to be explicit, so you're ready for the next problem, I'm going to draw these overlapping each other. So I've got an amplitude of -1. +2 plus -1 gives me a +1. Good with that? Thumbs up when you have a guess. Tell your neighbor. Correct answer is, got some A's on the table. A is correct. So I'm going to overlap. I'm going to draw this overlapping. So I have 2 here. Gives me 6. +2 plus -4 gives me a -2. Good there? Okay. All right. So let's do a quick recap of how a speaker works. All right. So, and this wire has alternating current. And that alternating current goes through the wire behind and that goes in the wire that's behind the speaker, which is in a magnetic field, experiences a force, pushes it one way. And then the current goes in the opposite way and pulls the speaker back. So this alternating current pushes and pulls the cone back and forth. This is the vibrating thing that creates the sound waves, that creates the pressure waves. Okay? Okay? That's one speaker. I'm going to put two speakers. Two speakers. One, two. Now I'm going to flip the wires. I'll wire them backwards. Oh, come on.
Kick your workday into overdrive. Weekday mornings at 10 after the Bob and Tom Show with the Workforce Rock Clock.
Don't worry, we have a procedure for these situations.
It's 2 hours of back-to-back rock for your workday.
Another job well done.
From Solid Rock 93.5 KHY.
One speaker. Oh, that was right. Sorry. One speaker, two speakers, done correctly. Switching the wires. One speaker, two speakers. One speaker, two speakers. Two speakers. One speaker. Flipping it around. Correctly. One speaker. Two speakers. One, two. Incorrectly. One, two. Oh, none. One, two. What and what's going on? So when I wire them correctly, both are experiencing the same signal. Both are pushing out. Their cones are pushing out and then pulling back simultaneously, causing what kind of interference? Constructive. But when I wired them incorrectly, we call that out of phase. As one gets pushed out, what happens to this cone? Just being pulled in because the current is going in the opposite direction. It's still the same signal, alternating current. It's just the electrons are going the other way. And so when you get one compressing, the other one's rarefacting. Does that make sense? And so it causes destructive interference. So if you don't know what you're doing, you can actually make your sound system sound worse with two speakers rather than one. Now, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to hook up your sound system. Just match the colors and you'll be fine. Okay. But you see how that's working? That makes sense? And this is how noise canceling headphones work. There is a microphone inside your speakers, inside your headphones, that records the outside noise. And then it flips the signal and plays that same noise just out of phase. So when the sound waves come in from the outside, it's interacting, it's being overlapped with an additional sound waves played by your headphone speakers that is exactly out of phase with the sound waves coming in, and experiences a destructive interference and cancels it out. In addition to vibrating to make the music you're trying to listen to. Does that make sense? Pretty cool, huh? Physics. Okay. Keep your attention back here. We're just going to keep this party going back here. All right. So what I have are two identical tuning forks on sounding blocks. Ooh. Okay, same note. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a mass on one of these, and it makes it harder to vibrate because there's more mass and more inertia. So what is this going to sound like compared to our original? Do we have a guess? Original note. Has a lower pitch. It's harder to vibrate, so it vibrates less frequently. You okay with that? Okay. So something crazy happens when I play two notes that are close to each other. So in music terminology, I would say this note is flat. It's lower than this note. Okay. When you play notes that are close to the same but not exactly, you get this phenomena known as beats. Hear that? Okay. This happens because you get two frequencies playing simultaneously, so they're overlapping each other. Sometimes they're in phase with each other and experiences constructive interference, so it sounds louder. Other times they're out of phase with each other and they experience destructive interference, so you get a quieter. So you get the wom 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 sound. You good with that? Okay. So here's an example that we've all experienced in life. Doesn't really correspond to waves, but you can get this idea. You're in a left-hand turn lane, and your blinker's going, your turn signal's going, and the turn signal in front of you, the guy in the turn signal's it's going as well. And like there's times where it's like it matches, like yeah, but you wait a little bit and like man, they're out of phase, but you're like wait for it, yeah. Just play this game because there's nothing better to do. You know what I'm talking about? Everybody knows, right? Okay. So when they're they'd be in phase, and if we had some, like, if this was a wave, that would be constructive interference. When they're out of phase, destructive interference. Good with that? Okay. So bringing it back to sound, beats occur when two frequencies that are close to the same frequency is played, causing alternating constructive and destructive interference pattern or interference. Okay, it's close to the same frequency, played, causing alternating constructive and destructive interference. The equation for beat frequency is that. So the follow-up question is, what would cause the beat frequency to decrease based upon that equation? So here, the beat frequency is how often the wah, 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 wah is happening. I want to make that happen less frequently. Based off of that equation, what would I have to do to turn it to these tuning forks? Oliver. So that they're closer together. You want them to be closer to the same frequency. Does that make sense? And as you get closer, okay, and you can actually tune instruments like this relative to each other. Usually it's only the higher pitched instruments, but it's so painful. It's like, oh, those flutes, like just shoot one of them. But you can hear it when you like are tuning it. Here in band, you can check that out. Okay, go to that. All right. All right, so acoustic engineering, a big part of that is dealing with constructive and destructive interference. On the right, the orange picture, that is the interior of the Opera House in Sydney, Australia. Never been there, but word on the street says if you drop a pin anywhere in here, you can hear it anywhere in the auditorium. Okay, that is largely because of the way this is designed. Okay, yes, it's cool looking, but it's been designed for acoustics, so there is no destructive interference. Because of a destructive interference, you wouldn't be able to hear it, and so those would be like the cheap seats, the dead zones. Okay, versus here, this is on the extreme opposite side. This is a recording studio. These wall panels are designed to make destructive interference happen all the time, because what they want is just the music, the note, the sounds recorded into the microphone. They don't want the echoes coming off the walls. Does that make sense? Cool with that? That's as far as we got with everybody else. So, call that good.